Hello world, Solomon here, or Solo for short. I'm a massage therapist and blacksmith and woodworker located in Midcoast, Maine. I am the owner of Hands and Hammer, and I am doing a thing. I hope you like it. So, today's episode, I wanted to talk about the different styles of massage. This might be a long one. I'm gonna talk briefly about a lot of different styles of massage. I'm not going to demonstrate anything here. If you do a quick Google search for each of these names, you should be able to find something about them that will go into more detail and description, and you should be able to find some videos demonstrating some of them. I believe Massage Nerd has a website and YouTube channel, and I believe he has gotten a lot of examples on there. I have not checked them out myself, so I cannot speak to their quality. But I've heard his name from a couple of different places in the massage business and massage world, so I would venture to guess that they're probably pretty good. But let's get started. There's a lot of different kinds of massage out there. All sorts of names. How different are they, though? Are they drastically different? Are they kind of different? I think a good comparison for this would be talking about different styles of martial arts or different styles of dance, both of which I've done. When I was young, I started doing ballet when I was about 4 or 5 years old. I did that for about 8 years. I also did tap dancing when I was a little older for almost as long. I did a little bit of jazz dancing. I think that was really it for me. But they were distinctive styles of dance, but they were also very similar at the same time. You know, the body only moves in so many ways, and people generally have a similar idea of what is really beautiful. It's when you get into the nuances that things become different, that the ideas of beauty become very subjective. But the overarching, most basic ideas for beauty typically follow certain rules. I mean, there are exceptions, but typically. And so most forms of dance are fairly similar, but they're also each distinctive in their own way. Similarly with martial arts. I started doing Kung Fu when I was about 13. Yeah, I think it was 12, 13 is when I started. And I did that until I left for college. Still practicing occasionally on my own, but after that I did a couple years of Kenjutsu, which, if anyone's heard of Kendo, it's very similar. It's Japanese sword martial art. I've done a couple years of Capoeira, which is Afro-Brazilian martial art. I've more recently done some MMA, mixed martial art. And with that, I've done some Jiu-Jitsu, which is a ground fighting art. And wrestling, which is sort of between the two. Wrestling's specialty really is the takedown, similar to Judo. In my opinion, I'm sure different people are going to get into that in much more detail. I'm giving very brief explanations here. All the different styles of martial art are very similar. There is no style that is better than another. It is the practitioner that's better. When you see two martial artists get in a ring and duke it out and fight, the better martial artist wins, not the better martial art. That's actually how mixed martial arts became a thing. When that first started, the competition show, it was about trying to find out what is the best martial art. Which fighting style is going to win the most often? And it turned out that the people who cross-trained, who did all these different styles and created their own, tended to win more often. And so it just kind of proved that there is no best martial art. It's really the practitioner. And the more varied, the more things you can learn, the better you are. And it's the same with massage. There's no one style of massage that will magically fix everything and is supreme and greater than all the others. They all have their strengths. They all have their own twists and styles of how they do things, but in general, it is a person's body working on another person's body. And there's only really so many ways you can do this. And so all the different styles of massage end up being incredibly similar. Some of them do stand out as their own thing that's a little different. Similarly with martial arts or with dance. You know, most forms of dance, the body is moving in these flowing, beautiful ways. And then you get something like tap dancing in there where now you've got a percussion instrument on your feet and it's different, but so similar at the same time. In martial arts, in most martial arts, you're standing on your feet. You're throwing punches, you're throwing kicks, you're slipping, you're dodging. And then you've got something like Jiu-Jitsu where you're laying down on your back. And that's just a very different situation. But it's still very similar. And so let's talk about some styles of massage. Because there's a lot of them. Yeah, we got Swedish Massage, Deep Tissue, Relaxation, Sports Massage, Myofascial Release, Trigger Points Release, Thai Massage, Acupressure, Shiatsu, Tuina, Anma, Reflexology, Craniosacral, Lymphatic Drainage, Lomi Lomi, Hot Stone Massage, Aromatherapy. I don't really consider that massage. I consider that a specialty in itself. I will talk about that a little more later. But then we also get into... I'm going to lump these with massage for now. I hope people will forgive me and we'll go into a little more detail later. Rolfing and structural integration. And there's a lot of somatic methods that are used as or incorporate massage, such as the Feldenkrais method. I hope I said that right. I don't know too much about Feldenkrais. But at this point, it becomes a fairly short step to other forms of manual therapy, such as chiropractic and osteopathic, and now I'm getting really into sketchy, scary territory for me to be talking about this. This is most people don't consider these massage, and so there's good reasons for that. There's also good reasons why someone might say it is like massage. So the term manual therapy or body work arose out of this, so that these different styles that are similar, that are using my body to work on your body, can still be different. And so chiropractic is not massage. Osteopathic is not chiropractic or massage. And a lot of people believe Rolfing is there as well. But Rolfing licensing, as far as I'm aware, for most states, falls under massage. And so for the purpose of this video, I'm going to lump it with massage. I hope people who are Rolfers and structural integrators forgive me for this. So there's a lot of them. I listed a lot of them, but there's a lot more than just that. Which one is the best is a very common question. And like I said, there really isn't a best. According to a podcast that I listen to called The Thinking Practitioner, which I highly recommend if you are interested in delving into any of these sorts of subjects and learning about the body and body work. They referenced, I don't remember which episode, but they've referenced it a couple of times, this study that was done to try and see what modality would be the best for certain injuries. And they compared massage to chiropractic to a couple of others. And they found that overwhelmingly, the modality that was most beneficial to a client was the modality that the client thought would be most beneficial to them. Sit with that for a second. What you think is going to be the best style for you is the style that's going to be the best for you. It's actually that simple. Because in terms of what they're doing to you physically, the physiology of what massage is doing to you, these different styles are mostly doing the same thing. There's a couple exceptions, and again, I'm going to break down a lot of these different styles and talk about them, and you'll see what I mean. But for the vast majority of them, the style that you think is going to be the most beneficial for you is the style you should go for. checking my notes here. Sorry for the delay. Yeah, with that said, really more than the style of massage, I think, is the relationship with the client and the practitioner. That's what's most important. It's finding a therapist, massage therapist, a chiropractor, an osteopath, acupuncturist, whatever modality you're interested in trying, finding the right therapist. The one that meshes with you is most important. The exact modality, I don't think, matters nearly as much, if at all. But now let's talk about these different styles of massage. Let's start with Swedish massage. It's the most popular. It is the basic one that's taught in schools. It's actually called classic massage in most of Europe. The whole evolution of how it became Swedish massage and how it originated and everything, it got really convoluted and complicated very quickly as I was trying to look that up. There seems to be a lot of debate in that, and it's like how it got formalized, who was the first one. I didn't get into that too deep because, again, I looked at 3 different websites and they all had surprisingly different answers for that. Especially since in the US at least, and I believe across the seas as well, it's taught with mostly French terminology. So Swedish massage is the classical massage in all of Europe and uses French terminology, but is a little more modern than when French was the King's English, if that's the right term. French was the universal language in Europe for a while. I think English was the King's English. My bad. Anyway, that history doesn't really matter. What is Swedish massage? It is very basic massage strokes. It is, if you were to try and take massage and make it a regimented, teachable thing that could be a curriculum. If you could create a curriculum for massage, you very often, most of the time, are going to wind up creating Swedish massage curriculum. It has basic strokes: Estrolage, Petrissage, Tapotement, friction, and vibration. Some people will add or subtract one technique to that list, but that's pretty much the basic ones. Estrolage is a gliding stroke. Estrolage is one that moves across the body. Petrissage is a kneading, grasping stroke. So you're pulling, you're squeezing, you're lifting the muscle, you're squeezing it to try and almost like pump it. It's oftentimes if you're trying to get someone ready to go and you're just grabbing their shoulders and you're doing Petrissage, you're just pumping them up. But it can also be done in a much more relaxing fashion. And all of these techniques can be done with varying degrees of energy and pressure. Tapotement is the classic ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta on someone where you're hitting them up and down. Friction is staying in one spot and creating a little bit of friction, sometimes going over the skin, very warming. You can literally heat up a person's body with friction. And the last one, vibration, is staying in one spot and just like jostling it slightly. That's basically what defines it. Those 5 techniques to perform massage is Swedish massage. And so you get a large variety of what different massage therapists will do with that. Some people will be much heavier pressure. Some people will be really light and flowing. It is not a really good way of knowing exactly what the massage you're going to get is like from simply saying Swedish massage, because that's just the most basic term for what most massage in this country and in Europe is taught. So it means you're going to get a massage using a combination of those 5 different techniques. What the pressure is, what the goal is, whether they're going to be doing full body or partial body, focus on just your shoulder, do a full body massage. That's not really covered in just the name Swedish Massage. Next one, deep tissue. As the name implies, it's about working on deeper tissues. And so you have superficial tissues, the most superficial of which is the top surface of your skin, the deepest of which is your bones and viscera. And your viscera you don't really want to work on. That's your organs. You never want someone massaging your organs. Please, 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 if someone says, I'm going to massage your stomach and your large intestine, say no. It's not a good idea. If they're going to massage your belly, if that's what they mean by stomach, that's fine. But your actual organ, that's not okay. Unless they're a surgeon doing a life-saving procedure. So deep tissue massage. What the name doesn't say is that walking and breathing, moving actually gives you a self-massage deeper than of deeper muscles than any therapist can actually reach. Massage is, technically speaking, we're touching the skin and we're putting pressure on the skin to put pressure through to the lower layers, the deeper layers. And while we can have that directly affect very deep tissue, it's almost indirectly. And so I can't directly massage your really deep muscles. Like, classic example is the psoas, your deepest abdominal muscle. But you can directly massage it yourself by moving the muscle and breathing and stretching it. Like, you doing a stretch will affect that muscle far more than me trying to push really hard and massage that muscle. So the name deep tissue is a little misleading. Just because you're using more pressure doesn't really mean you're affecting deeper tissues. Yes, there are certain techniques that tend to be associated with the term deep tissue, but those techniques can also very often be associated with the term Swedish massage. Very often. Really though, when people think deep tissue, they typically are thinking higher pressure and more pain in the massage. The whole no pain, no gain. That's not true. If I am putting enough pain in my client that their muscles are tightening, I'm not getting deeper. Their body's literally forcing me out and making a defense mechanism. So you actually sometimes have to be gentler to get deeper. Also, some of the deep tissue massages I've given have put my clients to sleep. It's oftentimes very relaxing, not painful. The name, in my opinion, is mostly advertising. It's something that became popular that, someone came up with a really good name to try and advertise their massage. Oh, my massage is deep tissue. No one really cares what that means because it sounds great. But it doesn't really mean anything because I can't just massage your skin without doing something so superficially light that would really only be appropriate for someone in extreme pain. So really, if I'm giving you a massage, I'm affecting your deeper tissues. And so any massage, you could argue, is a deep tissue massage. Rather, almost any massage. Again, there are times where you do have to do stuff super lightly if someone has a contraindication or a medical condition. And typically those people, though, need someone who's specially trained. So I'm talking like palliative care or oncology massage. That's the times when you would give a massage so gentle and light that it's not deep tissue. But almost any Swedish massage, classic massage, could easily, by the technical definition of the term, be deep tissue. Again, there are certain techniques that tend to be associated with deep tissue, but not exclusively. There is no universal branding of these names. There's no laws around this. It's advertising. Next one, relaxation massage. This one's pretty self-explanatory. It is any style of massage that's designed to help you relax. So it could be Swedish, it could be deep tissue, it could be anything as long as it is done in a manner to try and, excuse me, you know this is real, as long as it's done in a manner to try and help you relax and maybe fall asleep. Again, oftentimes deep tissue massages are the best ones to fall asleep to if it's a relaxation deep tissue massage. So relaxation massage isn't really advertising because there is a clear goal that is set with that. Next one, sports massage for the athlete. But wait, what's the difference between a 20-year-old marathon runner and a 90-year-old marathon runner? Aren't they both athletes? I would not give them both the same massage. And there's so many different levels of athletes. I mean, what about a teenager who just joined the swim team? They're totally an athlete, and they're a third option that, I'm going to probably treat them differently of how I would the other two. Sports medicine is a real thing. Athletic trainers. An athletic trainer is a college degree program that is serious and well respected and oftentimes incorporates some manual therapy in their treatment. That is a very specific thing, but for a massage therapist claiming sports massage doesn't really mean that much unless they are also trained in some of these other modalities or specialties. Technically speaking, I could hang a shingle and say I do sports massage. I am not an athletic trainer. I have not taken any extra classes towards how to help an athlete prepare or cool down or any of that. I had a weekend in my school that talked about how to do some massage for sporting events where, at a marathon, oftentimes there'll be a bunch of massage therapists giving free 5 or 10 minute massages for the runners. It's just a different setting. It's a different thing. You're trying to amp someone up and get them ready to run. Or afterwards trying to very slowly bring them down. You're not trying to make them fall asleep in either case. You're not trying to really work on a problem in either case. It's just, that was my sports massage class. It was great. I loved it. I'm not really qualified to work on a sports team in any fashion other than under the direction of the coach and the athletic trainer or whoever else is there. There are some massage therapists who are qualified for this. They have taken extra training. But just because it says sports massage does not mean that. So, again, it's a bit of advertising. You have to ask more details to see if that is for real, in which case they're probably going to advertise those things on their website or their card or whatever and talk about some of the other training and certifications that they would have. But for the most part, someone saying sports massage, there are certain techniques associated with it. It's kind of analogous to deep tissue in my opinion. Next one, myofascial release. Another really confusing name. Sounds super fancy. Myo, the prefix M-Y-O, means muscle. That's what it means. And so whenever you hear a scientific term about anatomy that starts myo, it's talking about something muscular. So myofascial is muscular fascia. Fascia. Oh, I could do a whole episode just on fascia. There's people who do it better than me, though. The Thinking Practitioner has 1 or 2 episodes on fascia. There's entire fascial institutes. It's a very big thing that people are really getting into. And it's a specialty unto itself that a lot of Rolfers and structural integrators really, really get into. And a lot of just other styles of massage as well. Let me just give you a quick explanation of what fascia is. Fascia is connective tissue. Connective tissue is literally tissue in the body that connects things. So your bones are connective tissue. Your tendons, your ligaments, these are things that connect. And so most of the connective tissue in our body is fairly easy to identify and distinguish and defined. And when it's not, when it's kind of between things, it looks like this saran wrap mess around everything, we call it fascia. There's a lot of different kinds of fascia. It's kind of a catch-all term for connective tissue that isn't otherwise defined. It's not muscle, it's not cartilage, it's fascia. For people who know a lot more about fascia, I hope you agree with me. If not, let me know. Comment. I really would love to hear. Again, I may do an episode on fascia, but if you do some research on your own, you will find far better than I could do. So, myofascia is muscle fascia. It's the fascia around and connecting muscles. So if you've ever heard someone talk about certain muscle groups, well, they're surrounded by fascia. That's what sort of separates the chambers and creates those muscle groups. This brings the question, though, can you target fascia? Myofascial release is talking about releasing the fascia. But can you target the fascia? Can you target just the myofascia? Can you work on the fascia without working on the muscles? Can you work on the muscles without working on the fascia? There's certain techniques, again, certain people who really do specialize in breaking up adhesions in fascia, in trying to distinguish and guess, because really without fancy technology, I'm not going to know if this knot that I'm feeling is in your muscle or in your fascia. And so there's certain people who work with the narrative of fascia and talk about stretching it and making it more pliable and loosening up, melting it. There's all sorts of terms people throw out there. Scientifically speaking, though, it's more about getting it to glide better. You really can't work the fascia without working the muscles. And you can't work the muscles without working the fascia. It's all too interconnected. And again, as a massage therapist, we're putting pressure on the skin to affect everything underneath it. You can target that to some extent, but not to the point where you can really target the fascia versus the muscle, because they're too intertwined. There's certain things you can do that will affect the fascia more than the muscle, maybe, such as skin rolling, which is literally you pull up the skin, you try not to get any muscle with it, and you roll the skin. You're just stretching the skin. That is still going to be pulling and stretching on muscle, though, as well. So it's another term that's usually used for advertising, I'm sorry to say. I think that's most of the advertising terms for different styles of massage. They're also some of the most popular terms for different styles of massage if you go to a spa. But the rest of this list, I think, gets into more specifics. We'll see if I forgot one. Next, trigger point release. Sometimes called myofascial trigger points, sometimes called muscular trigger points. Again, trigger points is another thing unto itself. This came up in the last episode where I said if you want to delve into this and really learn about what trigger points are and the controversy around them, Connor Collins has a podcast called The Concast, and he has an episode on trigger points that if you want to get into it, I really recommend. He did a great job. But for now, a trigger point is what most people refer to when they say, oh, I've got a knot in my shoulder. It's a specific point that when pressed on is hypersensitive. And there are certain techniques and things that generally work to relieve that. Trigger points are very often associated with muscle. And so sometimes figuring out, there are maps that are fairly accurate. You have a trigger point here? Well, we can narrow it down to these 3 muscles. Let's try working these muscles and see if that trigger point disappears. Or let's see if one of these muscles is tight, feels tight or sensitive, and now if we work that trigger point, that releases the muscle. There is this interconnectedness between them. And we don't really understand how that interconnectedness works. It's not a direct, simple line, but there does seem to be correlation. So it is really kind of a specialty, actually. It's about finding these points and working on them appropriately. And very often trigger point therapy gets incorporated into other styles of massage, but it's possible to do an entire session on just trigger point therapy. And very commonly, trigger point therapy, the standard way that people do it is they will press on that point till it's just painful enough that you aren't tensing your muscle underneath it, like about as much as you can handle, and just wait for it to relax. But there's other styles too. And that doesn't really fall under the 5 techniques in Swedish massage, so I think it's fair to call it its own thing. Next, Thai massage. Let's talk about that one next. UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, it's a mouthful, but a pretty cool organization, they added traditional Thai massage to their Cultural Heritage of Humanity list in 2019. That alone, for me, is enough to consider it its own thing. But let's talk about it a little bit first while we're here. Traditional Thai massage is part of Thai medicine, the traditional medicine, which is the whole complex thing unto itself. Doing a quick little Google search on it, web search on it, it seems to have aspects of Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine. I'm sure in Thailand they would call it their own thing, but as Thailand was sort of the mixing pot, right between all the places in Asia, there definitely was a lot of cultural exchange, and so it kind of makes sense for Thailand being between China and India to have incorporated, involved certain aspects of both of those medicines into its own. In Thailand, apparently, getting a Thai massage often involves more than massage. It may involve herbs, it may involve specialized tools, it may involve evoking spirits and people dancing around your table with bells trying to have those spirits come to create a beautiful, great, magnificent massage for you. Kind of sounds cool, kind of sounds kooky. I want to experience it. It sounds fun. they also will work along certain points similar to, they have their own meridian system, similar to acupuncture. But different also. Kind of interesting. Oftentimes, Thai massage involves stretches, especially in the US. If you see someone here advertising Thai massage, it's probably going to involve them doing a lot of stretches with you. It's probably going to involve, I've heard it described, it's probably going to feel kind of like passive yoga. Like the therapist is doing yoga to you. You get to just lay there and have the yoga poses done for you. It's also often done on the floor. Many styles of massage, pretty much all styles of massage, can be done on the floor. It's a different setup. But because of the vast number of stretches involved in Thai massage, it often is done on the floor. Some practitioners will do it on a table, but not all, and certainly not traditionally. I think most traditional styles of massage were done on the floor because that's where you had the space to lay down. Anyway, next one, acupressure. This one's a little dear to me. I have been studying Chinese medicine and acupressure. I started with a couple night classes in my schooling, part of my massage schooling, and then I did an extra weekend class, and I kind of fell in love with it. Part of that was I had a really good teacher. Part of that is my kung fu background. I understood some of the philosophical way of how things went together, and some of it was just, it seemed to work with me. I don't know why. I will do more episodes on Chinese medicine and acupressure later, but for now, a quick description of what acupressure is. It's acupuncture, but you're using your fingers instead of needles. So it's needleless acupuncture, which there's actually a lot of things that could be called needleless or needle-free acupuncture. Acupressure is one of them. Technically, I suppose you could use a tool instead of your finger to stimulate the points, but for a massage therapist, they're using their hands. So it's putting my fingers on the certain acupuncture points and trying to get the same effect. It does not require as much training to claim that you do that as it does to be an acupuncturist. So I don't know all 365 almost, I think it's like 62 or something, points on the human body in Chinese medicine, acupuncture. I know like 10, and I use them when appropriate as part of my massage. Next one is Shiatsu, often called Japanese acupressure. That's a little bit of an oversimplification, but Shiatsu follows the same principles of Chinese medicine, acupressure, and acupuncture, and their own Japanese influence and style. So for this reason, oftentimes people don't call it Chinese medicine, they call it Oriental medicine. But when I'm talking about it, my studies of it are typically of the Chinese origin and style, and so that's why I say Chinese medicine. I have not gotten into studying Japanese style acupuncture or Korean style acupuncture yet. One major difference between Shiatsu and acupressure, however, is that Shiatsu is a full massage practice. They aren't just putting pressure on the points. They will oftentimes do circular motion on the points, or they will do techniques along the entire meridian. It will oftentimes incorporate a lot of stretches as well. And it will massage muscles directly. It is a massage style that works along the meridians and points. The next one, tui-na. This is the traditional Chinese massage. So, kind of similar to Shiatsu in that it works along the meridians and the points. Yeah, I'm starting to sound like I'm going back and forth with this, but acupressure is just acupuncture with your fingers. Shiatsu is a whole massage style designed and based upon the meridians and their points. But tui-na is an entire specialty of Chinese medicine. In China, a tui-na practitioner is seen as equal to an acupuncturist, but different. Equal to a nutritionalist, but different. It can incorporate chiropractic style adjustments in the body as well. It can take like 10 years to become a tui-na practitioner in China. So it is the style of massage that incorporates and studies as much Chinese medicine as possible. So I'm sure there's many Shiatsu practitioners that go just as far with Japanese style of Oriental medicine, but that's really what tui-na is. The only story I've heard of someone actually getting a tui-na massage said it felt like the practitioner adjusted every single joint in their body and put it just back in a proper alignment. Kind of like, imagine if chiropractor didn't just adjust your neck and maybe your hip or a couple spots in your back, you know what you're complaining about, but if they took an hour to go through your whole body and adjust every single joint. That was what the tui-na session apparently was, which sounds pretty cool to me. And sounds like its own style to me as well. Next, Anma. This is a lesser known style of massage. It is actually the precursor to tui-na. It is a very ancient style of Chinese massage that, again, works along the acupuncture points, oftentimes doing small circular digital pressure and circle motions, and has a traditional philosophy that is kind of the opposite of what Swedish massage has actually. In Swedish massage, they say you always work from the extremities outside towards the heart to help with flow, help with blood flow especially. Whereas in Anma, they say you work from the middle out to try and send that tension and that bad energy out beyond the body. As far as I'm aware, neither of these have scientific backing. They're old narratives that, they're great narratives. I'm sure they help some people. In Swedish massage, there was a myth that going in the wrong direction against the veins and arteries could cause damage. Going in the wrong direction against the veins could potentially damage them. And so you want to go in the direction the veins go to help with blood flow. That's an old myth that unless there is a medical condition, a contraindication, unless there's some reason why you wouldn't want to massage that spot anyway, such as varicose veins, it doesn't matter. So, mind you, both those narratives are still taught to this day in schools. So there's a number of myths, old narratives and medical myths that are still being dispelled to this day. Let's go on to the next one. Last Asian one, I swear. Reflexology. Again, uses Chinese medicine principles, but instead of working upon the whole body, it works upon a small section of the body. Reflexology typically works on just the feet or just the hands, or, if you really want to go out there, feet and hands. But the idea is that a part represents the whole. fractals is kind of the idea. Think like a fern leaf. If you look at a fern leaf, if there's the whole fern plant, and then you look at just one leaf, and it's the same exact shape. And then if you look at one leaf on that leaf, it's the same exact shape. And it's the idea that just on my hand, it reflects my whole body, my whole being. So just on my hands, you might get a better reflection of my whole body and my whole being, and that you can treat through that. I probably am going to get into the idea of fractals and the small part representing the whole at a later time, just because it's a really, really fun idea and is represented in a lot of other philosophies and theories around the world. How true, how detailed that gets, I don't know, but it's a really fun thing to explore. Anyway, in reflexology, there's certain maps that you can follow where you look at the foot and like, oh, this spot is your stomach. This spot is your spine. Oh, this spot's really tight. That represents your upper neck or your shoulders. And there's some people who claim really effective work from this. I have not experienced it. I haven't tried it. I haven't looked to see if there's any research on it. But it is its own specialty. And I'm eventually going to look into it, but I haven't yet. Next, craniosacral. I heard a couple different accounts on what exactly craniosacral is. There's a couple different ways people describe it. There are a couple of different schools. Basically, either it's a form of energy work, which if you're curious about my thoughts and opinions on energy work, see my previous video or episode. Or the other thing that craniosacral is often described as is a very gentle and subtle way of affecting your parasympathetic nervous system and helping to circulate your cerebrospinal fluid. Let's break that down a little bit, because we don't need to just use big fancy words. It kind of sounds like I'm trying to cheat at Scrabble. Though if you can use one of those words in Scrabble, hats off to you. So, craniosacral focuses on mostly gentle holds. Maybe some light pressure and some light manipulations. These holds typically, though, are done at areas where the parasympathetic nerves are in higher concentration. Now let's break down what parasympathetic means. Your nervous system, your brain, your spinal cord, all the nerves, the things that help you actually communicate and make actions happen. There's a couple different kinds of nerves. There's a couple subsections within your nervous system. There's the part that you're thinking about, that you're doing, that you're choosing the action. And then there's, like your conscious part. And then there's your subconscious part. There's the part that you're not able to control directly. Maybe you can indirectly, but not directly. And part of that is your fight or flight reflex, your sympathetic nervous system, and your relaxation and digestion reflex, your parasympathetic nervous system. So to activate the parasympathetic nervous system is to help you relax, which helps you heal better. Because if you are having trouble digesting food because you're always in that sympathetic response, always nervous, always scared, always tight, you have trouble digesting. Your body still will, but not as well. You have trouble sleeping. Your body eventually will, but not as well. Your body has trouble healing. So, one of the most healing things you can do is relax. And that's one of the basic things in almost all massages, is to try and help you relax, help activate that parasympathetic response. So the craniosacral holds, cranial being your head, sacral being your lower back, just above your butt. It's the sacrum part of your spine. Those are the two spots where most of the parasympathetic nerves enter and leave the spinal cord, enter and leave the central nervous system. That's where a lot of them are as superficial as possible. So the idea behind those craniosacral holds in those areas is a gentle, calming hold right over the parasympathetic nerves should help stimulate your relaxation response. Yeah, it kind of sounds stimulate relaxation. It should help relax you. When you get into the parasympathetic response and you start healing, your brain actually goes into a different wavelength. Your body starts communicating and vibrating at a different wavelength. This is actually a scientific fact. And there's some fascinating studies being done on this right now, that playing certain wavelengths, certain sounds, that exact wavelength of the parasympathetic response, of the relaxation and healing response to your body, putting yourself in a sound chair, playing that, can actually have your body mimic that and get into it easier and have incredible healing. There's a lot to unpack with that little statement, and there's a lot of false claims that have arisen from this. Don't Google 10 hertz YouTube videos and start playing them on your computer and think you're doing the same thing, because you're not. I may do an episode on this later. I probably will touch on it when I get into alternative medicines at some point. But back to craniosacral. To restate it very simply, parasympathetic is relax, digest, and heal. So the other thing, though, that craniosacral tries to do is, this is the one I have a harder time believing, wrapping my head around it. But I haven't really delved into it yet, so I may still be convinced. They claim it can help affect the flow of your cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF. I'm going to just say CSF for short from now on. That is the fluid that is inside of the blood-brain barrier. That is the barrier that literally is meant to protect your most sensitive and delicate organ, that is your brain. So it's the fluid that is literally touching your central nervous system. That is your CSF. It nourishes, it protects, it keeps it moving and lubricated really good, all of that stuff. So it's pretty important stuff, and it's important to keep that flowing. You don't want that just to get stagnant, and that sounds gross. Flowing water is always nicer. Maybe not always, but that's the concept here, and it's true. And the most effective pump for that is breathing. That's the most effective pump we know. However, craniosacral practitioners say that they can do gentle manipulations to help encourage that flow. And they say they can do gentle manipulations of the skull. The skull is made up of a bunch of different bones. I forget the exact number. Most of which fuse by the time you're, I don't know, probably a teenager, maybe a little older. So the idea that they can do gentle manipulations of these bones that have fused together is a little bit of a stretch, but maybe if it's a really gentle or really subtle manipulation, maybe they're just compressing the skull, and while bone has very little give, it does have some, and so it might just make it move. Again, this is the part that I have trouble believing, but I haven't really talked to someone who knows the science or has claims to have science for craniosacral, so I may still be convinced at some point, but right now I'm pretty skeptical that it can directly affect the flow of your CSF. At any rate, craniosacral massage is typically incredibly gentle. It's one of the few styles of massage that is almost always safe to do, even on really high-risk clients. Next, lymphatic drainage. This is a much more complicated specialty. This is something that actually requires extra schooling and time. There's a lot of science that you have to learn behind it. This is, I literally had 1 day introduction to this in my schooling, so I cannot claim to even touch doing lymphatic drainage. But your lymphatic system is the system that basically your white blood cells, the excess fluids in your body. When you have swelling somewhere, you sprain your wrist, you sprain your ankle, and it starts swelling up. Most of what's swelling in there is your lymph. And so lymphatic drainage is a style of massage specifically to stimulate your lymph nodes, which help drain and send that back to your spleen, which then circulates it and it goes back into the body, becomes either blood or pee or whatever. I'm sure there's a step in there I'm forgetting. And so in lymphatic drainage, you're learning about the entire lymphatic system, how it's incorporated throughout the entire body, and how to appropriately stimulate and affect that flow. Oftentimes, people who specialize in lymphatic drainage will use that skill, that style in hospital settings, in elderly palliative care, in oncology care. Pretty much all of those, by the way, are specialties into themselves. Extra training for pretty much all of those. Maybe palliative care you could get away with not having extra training. But elderly, you can get away with not having extra training, but oncology and medical massage, that's extra stuff to learn and is absolutely worth it. I have not done it yet. Again, I'm still a pretty new massage therapist here, but I am continuously learning. The next style of massage, Lomi Lomi. This is a traditional Polynesian style of massage that uses sticks to do tapotement, if you remember that fancy term from the Swedish classical massage. It's using sticks to give someone a massage. I don't really know more than that, but that sounds like enough to me to count it as its own style. Hot stone massage. Similar to Lomi Lomi, this is another style of massage that incorporates a tool. Hot stones are used in hot stone massage. Sometimes they're just placed on your back to help give you a warm feeling and relax you. And honestly, I feel like just using a hot towel is the same basic effect. And people don't advertise hot towel massage. It doesn't have the same zing to it. Although many practitioners incorporate a warm towel as part of their massage. So, hot stone massage is a real thing. Sometimes people do use the stones as a tool in giving the massage. It's not really a gimmick, although sometimes people use it in a gimmicky manner. It really depends if you feel it's worth it. And I will say, from the one time I experienced a nice warm stone gliding across my back at the middle of massage, it was wonderfully relaxing. So it might be worth the extra bit to have hot stones included in your next massage. I might recommend trying it out once at least. But again, I think of hot stones as a tool, not as an entire style in itself. I'm sure there's people who disagree with me. Next, aromatherapy. Again, not a style of massage in my opinion. I see this as an entire specialty, or not even subspecialty, entirely separate specialty that incorporates really well with massage. But the use of different smells to have certain beneficial responses and knowing which smells may risk certain people getting headaches, such as lavender. Wonderfully relaxing smell to people who like it. Some people get headaches when they smell lavender, so you got to be careful with that. So it's alternative medicine that is really easy to incorporate with massage. You can incorporate the use of essential oils, mixing them in your lotion or dabbing them on certain spots to try and stimulate something for a person or have the smells in the air, but it's a completely separate specialty as far as I'm concerned. Not a style of massage. Something that if someone understands aromatherapy can introduce and use with their massage. Lastly, finally, I'm going to talk about Rolfing and structural integration. Little controversial here. Rolfers want to separate themselves from massage therapists. They consider it their own thing for semi-understandable reasons from what I've learned so far. I haven't really talked with a Rolfer. I've just heard a couple of talks, podcast episodes. But again, Rolfers and structural integrators, I'm lumping them together, and you'll understand why in a minute. Typically, Rolfing falls under the massage licensing, as I believe I mentioned earlier. They are certainly a form of bodywork and manual therapy, so I'm going to mention them here, but again, I'm stopping at that. I'm not going to talk about any other forms of manual therapy. I've gotten controversial enough in this episode. So, Ida Rolf, the woman who first created the Rolfing Institute, is a legend in the manual therapy world. They say she could tell if your foot was turned in or out from a picture of your shoulder. And from my experience with martial arts, actually, understanding how to wrestle someone on the ground or do close-up techniques, I believe that's possible, but incredible if someone actually was able to do that. So Ida Rolf taught people to look at the body as a whole. One of her sayings, and I'm sure I'm going to get it wrong, but essentially is, where the pain is not where the problem is. Where you think it is, it ain't. And that's very often true. Very often true that where the pain is not where the problem is. Sometimes it is where the problem is. You know, a client comes in and says, oh, my lower back's hurting. I have to start there and to reassure them and also to see if that is where it is. Or at the very least, I have to get there at some point. I might not start there. I might start above or below and work my way to that area. But the whole body is so interconnected. And Ida Rolf taught this as a core principle. It's a very important principle. She is far from the only person to teach this, especially these days. Her institute, the Rolfing Institute, it has produced some amazing manual therapists, and many of them went on their own to teach their own styles. Some of them taught at the Rolfing Institute and then decided to leave for all sorts of reasons. You know, they went off on their own. And those people who are teaching Rolfing but not quite Rolfing often call themselves structural integrators. Now you know why I'm lumping them together for the purpose of this video. It's a vast simplification, yes, to say that structural integrators are just Rolfers not teaching under that name. There are differences, and I don't think I'm really the one who should talk about that. If you really want to hear what I've learned listening to other people, you know, ask me in the comments and maybe I'll talk about it. But I think that's really something to ask people who are structural integrators, not someone who's a new massage therapist. Anyway, Rolfing is typically considered to be an intense session. You know, if you sign up for a Rolfing session, people have this idea that it's going to be kind of like deep tissue. Hurt so good. But as I talked about with deep tissue, that's not necessarily the case. And it's the same thing with Rolfing. Ida Rolf, they say that when she worked on you, you couldn't even feel her. And she will get incredible results. And this is true of many of her students as well. I'm sure some of them, when they work on you, it does have that hurts so good. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want. If that's the communication with the client and the relationship is the most important thing. There's times when I'm working on my clients and I am going for that hurts so good feeling. Most of the time I'm not, though. I feel as though there's no need for that. The other thing that Rolfers do is 10 sessions. You sign up for 10 sessions and they get everything in your body. They work all throughout your body, and that is great and that is wonderful. But why the number 10? I don't know. I don't understand. There's no scientific basis for that. There's no research basis for that. There's no injury I know of that takes 10 sessions to heal. So that's one of the differences between structural integrators and Rolfers, is structural integrators will give you different recommendations for how many sessions something should be, following in line much more with what massage therapists will do, which, you know, it varies from the practitioner to practitioner. Some will do research to see if there's, you know, any studies that have been done relating to the problems you're having. Some will say, let's take it a session by session basis. Some will say, from my experience, I think this will take so long to resolve. You know, everyone's different. But in Rolfing, typically it is 10 sessions. So I've talked for a while now. I've talked about a lot of different styles. How are the various styles of massage different? How different are they? They're distinct styles of massage that focus on specific things, but overall, they all have the same goal of making you healthier, happier, move better, and with less discomfort and pain. So they're all pretty similar, like I said in the beginning, but a lot of them are distinct and different in their own manners. Are the names good descriptions of them, or are the names mostly advertising? And it really varies. Like I said, there's a bunch of them at the beginning. I mentioned that, in my opinion, the name is just advertising. It's just to try and get you in the door and get some money and sound fancy. And I'm sure plenty of massage therapists will disagree with that vehemently. When they give a massage, they have in their own head their idea of what it means to have a Swedish massage versus a myofascial release massage versus a deep tissue massage. And they probably have all three listed on their website, and there are probably all three different massages, but the name itself doesn't tell you what the kind of massage is going to be like. You have to talk to the practitioner. So some names are pretty good. Trigger point release is a pretty good name. You know, you're working on releasing specific points that are sensitive, but most of them, it varies. You know, for the most part, I think the name of an entire style is a little too broad to really know what it is. Back to the martial arts analogy. You can have two different karate fighters. Let's go with karate. You know, there's a lot of different styles of karate that looks very different, actually, once you understand what you're looking at. At first, yeah, it all looks the same. But once you understand what you're looking at, Shotokan versus Goju-ryu can look very different. And then let's narrow it even more. Let's look at two different Shotokan practitioners, Shotokan karate fighters, and they're going to look different. And now let's narrow it even more. Let's look at two Shotokan fighters who trained together under the same teacher. They're still going to be different. No two people move their body the same way. No two people have the same body. No two massage therapists are going to give the exact same massage, and no two clients are going to need the exact same massage. And so it really is mostly about finding the right therapist for the right client. So as a client, if you're looking for a good massage therapist, it's not really so much about what style they do. It's about trying to find one that will communicate with you in a way that you like, that you feel comfortable with, that you understand, and that when they are working with you, they do it in a way that you appreciate. You know, pretty much any of these styles can be done aggressively or gently. And honestly, it's important for a therapist to be able to do both. I've had clients where on their right arm, I need to put all my weight into it for them to feel it and feel like I got something. On their left arm, I need to be really gentle. And it's not necessarily an injury. It's just they use their different arms differently, you know, and next week it might be reversed. So every therapist is different, and, you know, typically they'll use what's at their disposal. In my schooling, I learned a bunch of different styles. I don't advertise that I give a certain style of massage. I don't give a Swedish massage or a deep tissue massage or an acupressure massage. I give a massage. And in that session, I try and incorporate everything I can to give the best massage that I possibly can. And anything I continue to learn, I will incorporate that. With me, I charge a set price for a session. I don't charge for what style I'm going to do today, because that doesn't feel like it's got the client's best interest at heart. That feels like playing business. And I'd rather just know I'm going to get a fair price, and I'm going to give you or whoever walks through my door the best massage I can. On that note, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something out of it. If not, let me know. I want the truth. Be brutally honest with me. Good, bad, anything. And until next time, take care.